Hello and welcome to Patel Law, PLLC, where we help entrepreneurs and business owners with their legal needs. My name is attorney Kalpesh Patel, and I'm a corporate attorney who helps clients with reorganization of their companies. One of the many common types of reorganizations we undertake is helping our clients change their domicile from one state to another. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how this type of reorganization is done using the statutory conversion or domestication process here in Florida. Generally, some practitioners suggest dissolving your company in the old state and reforming it in the new state. This can be a more complex process, and it does have some drawbacks. For example, you would lose your company's identity, the history, and potentially the continuity of your company. You may also need to get a new EIN number. You may also need to manually transfer any assets or contracts to your new entity, which may or may not be possible. And you might face some adverse tax consequences or complications due to dissolving your companies. We do not recommend dissolving your entity if continuity of your company is important to you. So the next method that we use is a statutory conversion or a domestication process. This process is somewhat straightforward, but it can create problems if you don't know what you're doing. You would also potentially be able to keep the same EIN for your company. Generally, you would avoid some of the tax issues you would have when dissolving a company, as most of these types of transactions are structured as tax-free reorganization. However, not all states have laws that allow for this type of move. So you need to make sure that both the state your company is currently in and the state that you want to move your company authorizes a conversion or domestication of your company. For states that don't have one of these statutes, you generally have to look into conducting what's called a reincorporation merger. So what's the difference between a conversion and a domestication? Generally, here in Florida, conversion statutes refer to reorganizations involving LLCs. This includes changing an LLC to a corporation or converting an LLC from another state to a Florida LLC. On the other hand, domestications typically involve the redomiciling of a corporation from one state to the state of Florida. So each state has its own statutes for conversions and domestications, leading to a lack of uniformity. Some states only allow conversions if an LLC will convert to a corporation in the new state or a different type of entity, preventing LLC to LLC conversions, while other states may permit LLC to LLC conversions. For example, California previously allowed only LLCs to convert out of the state of California and not corporations. However, the law was changed in 2023, so now corporations from California may also convert out of the state of California. Is a statutory conversion or domestication right for your business? So let's break it down. It may be right for your business if you have ongoing operations and any sort of disruptions to your business would be your company. And if it has significant assets, next, you want to maintain the same EIN number. It's usually a good idea to convert or domesticate. And you also may want to consider converting or domesticating if you have loans that are outstanding on your company. The loans, if you dissolve the company, may be called in those situations. It takes a lot of time, effort, and energy for most of our clients. You have to set up new bank accounts and things like that. So dissolving and reorganizing your business in a new state would be impractical or impossible, or otherwise challenging for your company. So if you are going to continue to maintain the company's identity, history, and maintain the continuity of your company's existence, in those situations, a conversion or domestication may be appropriate. Now, it may not be appropriate for you if you have an entity that doesn't have any assets, you don't care about the EIN for your company, and may not currently be engaged in business. For example, you just started the company this year and maybe moved to Florida. And in that situation, it may be easier for you to just start a new company here in Florida versus doing a domestication conversion. There are some important considerations you have to make before you decide to engage in a conversion or a domestication type of reorganization. For example, you would want to know what the Florida laws are, understand the specific requirements and processes for the domestication in Florida, how to operate your business in Florida thereafter. You also need to understand the laws of the state that you're currently registered in, understand what steps you're going to need to take to move your company out of that state. For example, some states will require you obtain a tax clearance certificate before they'll process any sort of exiting of your company from that state. You also want to understand the state and federal tax laws and implications of those laws on your reorganization. Generally, we like to structure these transactions as tax-free reorganizations, and you would want to confirm that with your CPA or tax professional as well. And the next, timing. So the conversion of domestications can take anywhere from 4 to 16 weeks, depending on the state you're domesticating from and the type of entity that you have. So when a client hires us, our process is like this. First, I'll speak to the client and try to understand what challenges there may be in their reorganization. The next thing we do is we prepare a plan of reorganization or conversion or domestication to comply with your state and the state of Florida's regulations. This plan generally will detail the process, the statutes we're relying on, what's going to happen to your equities and how it converts from one state to another, what happens to its contracts and assets. And generally the plan provides that it's all going to transfer automatically by law under the statutes of both states. So then once the plan is drafted, then we'll go ahead and send it to the owners to review and approve. Then once everything is reviewed, signed, and authorized by the stakeholders of your company, then we start the filing process. And so first we'll file with the state of Florida. Your company is going to show up in the state of Florida's entity database. It'll have the original incorporation date that you had in your home state. So it'll show if your company was formed in 2012, it'll show that your company was created in 2012. Then it'll also show that your company moved from one state to another and on what date that move occurred. If someone looks up your company, they can see that it was transferred from, let's say, Illinois to Florida. This way, you maintain the continuity of your company. And then once your filing is processed by the state of Florida, we go ahead and file the reciprocal filing in the state where your company is from. Now, if you are going to continue doing business in that state, then what you'll need to do is also potentially file a foreign qualification of your Florida company along with, so that way you ensure that there isn't a disruption in your ability to operate in your home state, maybe while you're transitioning the domicile here to the state of Florida. And let's say if you're not going to continue doing business in your home state, then the home state generally will consider your entity as inactive. So some states, when you go look up your company in the home state, it'll say converted out. Other states will say inactivated or some other form to show that you're just not active in their state. Then what we do for our clients is we'll put everything into a nice packet for you with all of your filings and plan and everything like that. And we provide a final consultation. I also provide all my clients with a post-domestication checklist to help them finish out the transaction with any sort of post-domestication items that they may need to do now that their company is doing business here in Florida. So if you're interested in moving your company to the state of Florida using the statutory conversion or domestication process, give us a call today. We do require an initial consultation before we do engage in any projects because we want to just make sure that if we're going to do this service for you, it makes sense. When it comes to these types of reorganizations, most people will not know that they did something incorrectly until there's a third party conducting an audit, whether it's the regulatory body, the IRS, or due diligence by a buyer in an acquisition. You need to know how to do it legally and efficiently so it does not create long-term consequences for your business. So it's very important to make sure you have an attorney and a tax professional to provide counsel and advice to you. Thank you for watching this video, and we hope to hear from you soon.